Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Pie Records, and I'm here with the guys from the Delstroyers. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Good.
Good, surviving.
It's good to meet you. I was very anxious when Frankie mentioned you because I wasn't sure if you guys be interested in an interview, but he spoke very highly of you, so that was cool. And
Oh,
I
cool.
got
Thanks.
awesome. So first, let's start by introducing yourselves and telling us what instruments you play.
Sure.
Go for it. Go for it.
I'm Lucas. I play bass.
I'm Todd. I play drums.
And I'm Andre. I play guitar.
Awesome. The first uh the first thing I noticed when listening to Diabolical, and then is it Resurrected, right?
Yeah.
Was that there was something different about your reverb. I wasn't sure what it was. I can't quite put my finger on it, but I love the sound, and I dig the faster paced stuff. You want to talk about where you got your inspiration for your sound?
You mean as far as the reverb goes, yeah, I think it's just trashy. As far as I think that's what kind of I at the time I was playing through like a boost into a reverb tank, and so it was breaking up quite a bit, and I kind of go back and forth between that. But as far as like the sound of the guitar versus the sound of the band, I mean, Todd, I feel like that's been the idea from the beginning of just like kind of going a bit full throttle.
How many reverb tanks and stuff do you have these days, Dre?
Yeah, well, I have this one, which is a Gomez tank that I got at SG 101, and that thing is awesome. And then I have a couple of vintage ones, but those I think for the record, it was all the vintage stuff.
Awesome, very cool. Interested about bass lines. I want to talk about bass lines now. I'm a big fan of all the instruments, especially rock music, but I want to know uh, how you write your bass lines based on the guitar, the riffs and the melodies.
So typically, Dre will kind of come with the major outline of a song, including like a easy drums, like drum part, and a bass line, and then once he's kind of brought that to the table, we kind of workshop things. So I'll take what Dre has brought, and sometimes I'll just end up playing it, exactly as he's written it, because I'm digging the vibe. Sometimes I'll put my own spin on it or add some little changes to it, simplify something, complicate something, throw in some little, touches and stuff. But it all kind of starts from those demos that Dre brings to the table. He's kind of the principal songwriter.
Very cool. I noticed a kind of a punky vibe to it. You said trashy, but there's definitely an element of the dirty sound, which is very appealing to me. I mean, it's recorded very well, so I didn't want to give our listeners the wrong impression, but the sound is definitely reminiscent of that '90s punk rock / surf explosion, I would think.
Yeah, we all come from a rock background, I mean, I grew up listening to Iron Maiden and Merciful Fate and, a bunch of hair metal bands and in that time period. I had 3 older brothers, so I grew up on Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and, Black Sabbath. And so, I mean, always been a rocker, and I think it's just in our blood. Dre and I actually played in a grunge band for half a decade back in the grunge days, and crazy times there. But we just grew up listening to a lot of hard rock, AC/DC, bands like that, and also just I think being from the Pacific Northwest, it seems like bands that come out of here, maybe it's the rain, the drizzle, whatever, the gray, but bands like the Sonics, you know, there's just been this sort of history of things being turned up to 11 here. And I don't think it's
Yeah.
something that we could ever get away with. Like when we started this band, surf band in any way, shape, or form, because we knew it just wasn't, what we're really about. So that's always been there. I think it'll always be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've only, prior to this band, I've only ever played in punk bands. So I didn't grow up in the Seattle area. I grew up in Arkansas, in kind of a small town. But, in the way of small towns in the middle of nowhere, there was a small but really like tight knit, DIY punk scene, which is what I kind of came up in. But you also mentioned like the 90s, like surf punk sound. We all came to surf through the kind of 90s surf revival. For me it was Man or Astro Man was like my introduction to
Yeah.
surf. Like the record Experiment Zero just got somehow penetrated like our little punk community and like floated around with everybody. And I know like for Todd it was Satan's Pilgrims at like a house party. And so those, while we all, later, looked at earlier stuff and all the influences, we all kind of cut our teeth on that 90s hard driving surf revival stuff. And so that's very much in the DNA of everything that we do.
It's like Mel was saying in the interview y'all did with the with Evan Stones.
Yeah.
All the punk dudes just turn into surf bands.
Yeah. Totally. I think that kind of tendency or that love for surf music is always there, but I don't want to say it's maturing. It's just trying something different and just trying to kind of experiment with music.
Yeah.
What I do find interesting is the Pacific Northwest. I've spoken to a lot of bands from there, and they're all excellent. um what is it about that? I keep asking myself in the bands, what is it about that area that there's so much surf rock coming out of there?
Well, I think you got to look at the ventures, coming out of Tacoma, which is 45 minutes away from Seattle. I mean, legendary. I already mentioned the Sonics, and then there's just kind of been this history. I mean, you talk to Evan and Boss Martians. I mean, those guys are legendary, been doing that for decades around here. So we were pretty new to the whole surf thing, and it was so refreshing coming out of the grunge days, and to sort of discover something completely different. Like, oh, people do this still? Like, I thought this was only happening in 1965 or
like when Mudhoney did the Strychnines. That was. Yeah. I mean, we were both at the show. And there was one of those moments where like, holy shit, this is like perfect.
Yeah, and so it's just a refreshing change, and
yeah, I think geography has something to do with it, kind of on the whole too. I mean, like there's a history that kind of comes and goes of bands, like bands from outside of the Pacific Northwest sort of skipping the Pacific Northwest when they go on tour. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but a lot of times you'll see like a West Coast tour and it's just like on a poster, but it ends up just being California and maybe a stopover in Las Vegas, and so I think that kind of isolation of Seattle and Portland, like kind of up by themselves, has really engendered this sort of spirit of, you know, if we want to have this cool music, we have to make it ourselves and support each other and kind of push each other to be and do what we want to see, because no one's gonna, you know, hand it to us.
I think the it's interesting though. I mean, I think there are a few people that seem instrumental in developing the little surf community that we have going in, like from out of Daryl's and kind of Slims, and just a little bit of that kind of linking several of our bands together.
Yeah, and Tom Head, you know, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
you know, I mean, he's really the guy, was the guy, has been the guy,
yeah,
to promote surf in Seattle
since the beginning.
Yeah, so when we
for us,
him and TN, you know, both
Yeah,
two folks
TN.
who really do a lot to promote bands and book shows and, you know, try to bring everything together.
When we first started, you know, Dre and I and this punk rock kid that we used to work with just started playing like some Low Straight Jacket songs and stuff, you know, because we loved the stuff, you know. And so when we did the first EP, we thought nobody played surf in Seattle. There was no scene.
didn't
Like
know
we had
anybody,
no
yeah.
idea. We were completely oblivious. We were just
It was there, but we were just,
yeah, we just had
you
no
know.
idea. You know, we'd been heads down in our jobs and stuff like that. And so we just made that EP having no idea. And the next thing you know, it's playing on the radio in Seattle, and we're getting invited by people to play shows. And you know, Lucas mentioned that, you know, people are so cool to each other and support each other. Like we were blown away coming out of the grunge years and stuff where it was just like cutthroat and all that. That was our history. And then we make this little surf EP because we wanted to and we loved it. And so we were shocked when people were like, oh, you guys play surf? Come play these shows and all this stuff. And then, you know, I mean,
that had never happened before.
You know,
that was not a thing.
Yeah, we thought we'd never play a show. We thought, you know, we would just make this EP thing for fun. And I mean, you know, and then we've got our heroes like, you know, Ted and those guys from Pilgrims. Like,
yeah.
Playing our record release with them was just like a dream come true and stuff.
Can't believe it.
And I mean, it's just been insane, you know, amazingly cool. So big props to Jeff down in California and John Paul and Vincent out on the East Coast. And like these people just kind of, you know, invited us to do all these cool things. And it's amazing that kind of thing happened.
Evan too, and the Bald Martians, those guys have really been super cool, and kind of taken us under their wing in a way. We did a little East Coast tour with them in summer of 2019, and you know, they've invited us to play shows and just, you know, helped us out and pushed us, you know, and it's those guys have been just amazing to us as well.
Evan's like a machine, man. That guy is always doing something.
It's crazy. Yeah.
When I talked to him, it was always, what's that?
I was just gonna say he's just always like pumped and amped and always just like go and just
always.
like stoked all the time, which is awesome.
He's amazing.
So you guys have stuff out on High Tide Recordings, is that correct?
Correct.
How was it that them being on the East Coast, you hooked up with them?
I don't actually know.
I know.
How did that happen?
Reached out.
So,
Vincent and Magdalena just reached out to us after Diabolical came out. You know, I think the record was getting a little bit of buzz in surf circles, and they reached out to us and said, "Hey, we'd like to work with you." And you know, I think it was just as simple as that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think it was just I think maybe Jeff Hansen might have been like, hey, this guy Vincent from High Tide wants to talk to you. Can he give you a call? And I'm like, sure. And then 10 minutes later, I got a call or something. And so we had made that record Diabolical. We funded it and recorded it and did it all ourselves. But, they wanted to get involved and get it out to more places. And then, they basically supported us doing the Resurrected EP and all that. And so, yeah, it's been great.
It's really cool how one thing I noticed is that usually because of scheduling and timing of releases, one label is not afraid to say, oh, I have something going on right now, why don't you call this guy? Or because labels talk, and it just seems like they're it's just a matter of schedule. It's not a competition, like you said before. It's not cutthroat. It's all one big thing.
Yeah, totally.
So
and it's crazy how fun these events are too, like SG 101 and the Asbury Lanes thing. Like it was just a blast, and everybody's super cool. It's just,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just like the best community.
Everybody I've met is very welcoming in the community for me personally, because I've always loved surf music, but I'm kind of new to meeting the bands and things like that. Go ahead.
You're based in Philly, is that right, Ryan?
In Philly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great band there you should check out, the Primitive Fanks. Really, if you haven't heard of
Oh
them,
my God, those guys are
really
amazing.
awesome, like trashy surf and garage, based in Philly. We played with them in the Boss Martians when we were out there. Super awesome guys. I recommend you talk to them if you get a chance.
I'm definitely gonna reach out to them. I've been out of the Philly music scene for quite a while, but there was lots of different. I remember back in the day, there was so many shows where there was all different types of music. You couldn't find a show that was all punk rock or all surf or all metal. There was just all shows, like different styles together. Do you guys find that's the best type of show to play, or do you like being more mixed in with tiki lounge stuff like that, or do you like a really diverse bill?
We do it all, we enjoy it all. We've played tiki events, and gotten super great response. We've played with straight up, metal bands. Like I said, I come from the
Detonator.
punk scene. Yeah, Detonator. So like when I'm the couple of times that I've been like in charge of picking the bands to play, I'll bring in Seattle punk bands like the Snubs, or we played with my friends a punk band called Four Lights. But we also have played just straight all surf shows. There's enough bands in the Seattle area that we can put on a full-on surf show with folks like Via Combusta and the Cosmic Rays and the Evan Stones, who you talk to, and Earthlings, Muerte Men. I mean, it's really great because we have options. And I love playing mixed bill shows with like lots of different types of bands. But it's just
like the one-uppers are really fun.
Yeah. It's just cool to have those options to jump around between scenes. We don't want to get pigeonholed into only doing one type of show, whether it's playing only with surf bands or never playing with other surf bands. Like we want to do it all. We want to run the gamut.
Awesome. Tom, what do you
and so far it's not too weird, right? Like so far we're able to kind of get away with it a little bit in terms of like playing with different genres. Like we haven't gotten thrown out yet.
Not yet, but we will.
We're working towards.
Todd, with your background in metal and grunge, how is that part of your musical career influenced the way you play in the Delstroyers?
Well, I grew up trying to play drums as hard as I could, you know, like physically just as hard as I could and all that. And it's always this constant struggle between, you know, rocking out and trying to be a little more finesse, you know. So it's different. You know, I never was like much of a double bass player and stuff. I mean, in the grunge days, I played a kit that was, you know, similar to what I play now and stuff. So it wasn't like some major leap from like a 30-piece drum kit to a small
You used to be
14.
here, but now you're kind of here.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
yeah,
It's a lot
yeah,
more
it was
playing of the ride
less of
cymbal.
this and
Yeah.
more of this.
Yeah, a lot more playing of the ride cymbal, but um yeah, I don't know. I always find it to be kind of the struggle of like, you know, sort of vintage surf stuff on the one hand, where most of the guys back then didn't play very hard and stuff, and they came from a lot of jazz backgrounds and stuff like that, to, you know, uh, Man or Astro Man, like just going for it, you know, and there's sort of this uh balance point, I guess, you know, for me. But yeah.
It's interesting. I always um wonder when I talk to a band, everybody has a different background, and everybody has different musical training and influences, and it's always interesting to find out where people come from and how they apply what they've played in the past. But you guys are super aggressive in some songs. Um, is that like just a matter of you guys being just so into the surf thing that it just makes you want to, like you said, go for it?
I think so. And it's just, you know, you said like, well, how do you kind of have to adapt your playing or, you know, whatever. And some surf songs are just crazy fast, you know?
Yeah.
So we kept trying to just get faster and faster with some of
Yeah.
the songs and stuff, but it
We had
took
like a
time.
target BPM, and it was a challenge to get
Yeah, or
all the way
like,
there.
can we break this mark, you know? But it took time, you know, trying to adapt to like for me, play the ride cymbal as eighth notes on a song that's 200 BPM or something it was like, all right, you know, this isn't messing around, you know. So but it's been fun, and it, you know, it's fun to nerd out on all the gear and the, you know, the old stuff, and just there's such a wide variety of things. You know, you go back to like 1961 versus something that was put out today or something, you know, and there's always cool things to find, new things you haven't heard before, bands you've never heard of. So I I fell in love with it in probably about 95 or 96, and I've never gotten sick of it, you know. It's always interesting and always fun, and I really like playing it, you know, and I'm lucky to have these guys to play with, and so it's just fun.
Yeah, it's a blast. It's
I
the
wanna,
most fun I've ever had playing music.
oh, that's awesome. So speaking to that, I want to nerd out for a little bit and talk about your gear. I see is that a P bass behind you?
Yeah, it is.
It, that's unusual for me for a surf band. Is it not?
I mean, surf bands tend to lean Fender. Whether, you know, P bass versus jazz bass, I think that's kind of I don't know, up in there. I'm honestly, I'm the least gearhead of the guys, of all the guys in the band. I tend to like find something that I like and then and just stick with it. Um,
That's
but
a cool bass though.
yeah, but this is a great
Yeah.
bass. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's this is actually, this particular bass actually belongs to Todd. It's an old Mexican P bass that he's had, you know, for years and years, and he's decided to bring it out of storage, and we were like, well, you know, we'll try it, and you know, Dre did a quick tune up on it, and we stuck some new strings on it, and I started playing it, and we just, you know, it's got this growl to it,
Yeah.
that's
I
very
tried to
unique.
steal it.
So now it's kind of, for recording the, you know, the new tunes that we're working on, it's kind of become the primary bass for that, just because the songs we've been doing are kind of pushing even more like faster and more aggressive, and so the sound that it has just really kind of matches up with that stuff really well.
Yeah, I see that being used in a lot of aggressive type music, but it's
Mhm.
still very versatile.
Yeah.
Um, so as far as guitar sounds go, what are you playing right now? I know I see the Fender in the back, I see the reverb tank,
Yeah.
but as far as guitars go, what's your go-to guitar?
The go-to is probably the red Jag that I play most of the time with Delstroyers. I have a Moserite as well, but I don't know. I've been looking for an excuse to play it more, so maybe I should do that. But mainly it's the Jag,
Cool,
and
cool.
mine's not cool in any way. It's like it's also I think it's a Mexican Fender Jag from like 2000 and when did we start doing this? Like 2018, right off the shelf. Like I literally, we started the band and I needed a guitar, you know, and so I just went to the corner and got the one right off the rack. It happened to be red, but that was lucky. But I think that's actually why I bought it. It was like a red Jag, and that's what I needed. So, but it's great. I've changed some stuff on it, but that's usually what I go to.
Very cool. Um, Todd, I'm ending with you because you started this and I wanted it to go all full circle. Is uh, as far as gear goes, I've never talked to anybody about drum gear, and so I wanted to see what not only makes your sound aggressive, but what makes a surf drum sound better to you.
Yeah, for me again, it's always trying to ride this line between, I think Ted said this best one time. He said with the Pilgrims, they always wanted to keep a toe in 1963 or something like that. And it's the same thing. Like um mostly what I play is a kit that's modeled around what people played in the 60s, you know. So the heads are coated ambassadors, top and bottom, like what would have been in the 60s. The sizes are 60s sizes. Um, Cymbals are in that vein as well, you know. So again, it's always trying to ride this line between what makes surf and making that work in our situation. Snare drum, I've got a whole bunch of them, way too many. It's taking up too much space in a room upstairs. But my go-to snare drum is a 5x14 Ludwig Superphonic steel snare drum. Again, what's been used on countless records. Probably the most recorded snare drum in history. Um, but that's what the surf guys were playing, you know? So not only is it a great drum and I love it, and I actually used to play the same thing back in the grunge days. It's not new to me in any way, shape, or form. So it was just that drum's always like going back home. I try other things and I'm like, oh, this is great, you know, and it's just new. And then a month later, I'm like, nah, back to the Superphonics. So I've got multiple drum kits and stuff from over the years, and I try different things, but for this band, it always comes back to the same things: Superphonic, coded ambassadors, 22 by 14, 13 by 9, 16 by 16, 60 sizes. And I'm sure I'll diverge again, but I'll always come back. So
Interestingly enough, the band I interviewed this morning is called the Superphonics.
oh yeah, great.
And that's exactly where he got the name from.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's if I could only have one snare drum, that would be it. 5 by 14 Superphonic. No question.
Awesome. Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we sign off? Like where we can find your music, your vinyl, your CDs, your digital. Do you have a Bandcamp page, a website?
Yeah, Bandcamp, the Delstroyers.bandcamp.com, or you can look us up on Facebook and link through there, or Instagram. Any of those will have links, to where you can get to where the music's actually there. Yeah, we're working on a new record. We've been working on it for a couple years, but we like to record live together as a band, and so COVID has kind of made that difficult for the past year, but we're looking forward to kind of getting back into things and finishing that up, and hopefully getting out and playing some shows again. Yeah, I don't know. You guys have anything else?
I'm still disappointed you didn't do this interview bare chested. We tried, and
They offered me $20, but
yeah, we offered to pay Lucas $20, but it didn't fly. So other than that,
did you ever see that comedian that does the machine bit? He always takes his shirt off.
No.
He tells his story about how he went on a class trip abroad, and he meets up with the Russian mob, and he just gets loaded with them. But right when he comes out to do his stand-up, the first thing he does before he picks up the microphone is take his shirt off. And he's
Nice.
a really hairy guy, and it's just part of the great. The great.
Lucas would be a hit.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for coming on before we get cut off. Want to thank you. I love your music, and I appreciate your time very much.
Oh, thank you,
Thanks,
Ryan. I
Ryan.
really appreciate you asking us. Yeah.
It's great to meet you as
thanks
well.
a ton.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Take care.